Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amanda Zabo. I am the founder and CEO of Resort Pass, sponsors of today's webinar hosted by the International Luxury Hotel Association on the topic of moving from recovery to growth in luxury hospitality. So today's panel is moderated by Dr. Lisa Kane, Associate Professor, Chaplin School of Hospitality and Tourism Management at Florida International University. And joining today our panelists, Jennifer Barnwell, President of Curator Hotels and Resorts Collection, Chanika Gaymatij, Senior Director, Revenue Strategy of Omni Hotels and Resorts, and Tiffany Owen, Area General Manager of Sage Hospitality Group. So before we get started, some of you tuning in may already be familiar with Resort Pass or are currently using it at your property. But for those of you who are not familiar, I'll give an overview of our program and how we partner with luxury hotels and resorts to increase ancillary revenue beyond the room. And specifically how we are helping them in this recovery time to best meet the demands as well as the challenges in operations and staffing. So we currently are partnered with close to 1,000 hotels, predominantly upscale properties across, business, city center, luxury hotels to destination resorts in, Caribbean and Mexico. So we've built the first full solution that specifically focuses on ancillary opportunities beyond the room, giving hotels a way to get more out of their leisure amenities, such as the pool, cabanas, spa, and F&B. So the first way we do that is we make it easier for overnight guests to book amenities, activities, and services by allowing them to make reservations online, either pre-arrival or during their stay. So instead of having to call, guests can go to a really user-friendly site that's white labeled to your property. It showcases all the wonderful amenities and services that they can reserve ahead of time. They can go ahead and make those bookings right online. Our hotels are using it for their poolside seating, cabanas, day beds, reserved lounge chairs, but also for activities, classes, events, anything on property that can be reserved. It's super customizable and it really enhances the guest experience. Today, people expect everything to be online. So this is just bringing these other parts of the property into that digital world, but it also maximizes their revenue potential. So on the operation side, everything is managed efficiently online in the back end, giving all front office staff and managers the tools they need, such as managing the reservations and checking guests in, setting the inventory and pricing. Now, yield management practices and approach to rooms can be now applied to these other types of amenities and spaces. There's a lot of revenue being left on the table just because things are manual and static. Now, given the right online tools, hotels can really maximize and yield manage things like cabanas and activities and events. The other way we increase ancillary revenue is through our day guest platform. So the concept of a day guest isn't actually anything new. Of course, hotels' main guests are the overnight guests, but the property also has restaurant patrons that come in locally to dine, weddings and events, people are visiting for the day. Spas are open typically to daytime guests. So with Resort Pass, we're just taking that one step further. We're just expanding that concept to the other amenities, predominantly the pool, and only during lower occupancy days when the amenities aren't fully used by overnight guests. And the hotels are given that full control of managing, when they are going to open up spots to day guests and when do they close it out and restrict access only to overnight guests. But day guests are registered hotel guests. They make a reservation online for the hotel based on availability and pricing. They check into the hotel just like a regular guest. They're just using a different set of amenities instead of the room. And these day guests are high spending. Not only can day guests be equal or more than the amount of an overnight stay, some cabanas sell up to $1,000, but they drive significant F&B spend. And that's a big part of the lift that our partners are seeing. And this revenue is more meaningful than ever. Our properties that are using both our white label solution and tapping into the day guest marketplace are driving millions in new revenue per year, keeping in mind also that the margins on these amenity reservations are significantly higher than the rooms. So hopefully this sparks some good discussions, and I invite you to learn more about how Resort Pass can be a part of your future and growth. Thank you, everyone.
Welcome, panelists and audience members. Thank you all for being here and joining the discussion. I am delighted to be here moderating Moving Toward Growth in the Luxury Hospitality Sector with this esteemed panel. As we move from recovery to growth, the first thing that comes to my mind are the customers and shifting expectations. How do we understand what guests want when they travel? Jennifer, let's start with you.
Yeah, happy to. Thank you for having me. So, I think what we've all kind of collectively gone through the last, 2+ years has certainly given us a lot of time to think about how we spend our time, where we're going to spend our time. And if you were a traveler pre-pandemic, you're probably like me, yearning to travel again and get all those experiences. So, there's a lot of travelers that are looking for something special, which to me means experiences, activities, ways to make memories, for yourself, for you and your significant other, for you and your family. And what we're seeing is the places that are in the most demand are resorts, and other unique properties that have a lot to offer in terms of, they're big properties of, sprawling and lots of space. They have lots of outdoor amenities and activities. So I kind of start there, but then also add to that, we always have to keep track of the basics. So what I guess want when they travel, I think good communication is always key. So from the hotel to their guest, and multiple communications before they come on property, but also vice versa. How being clear about how the guest can communicate with the hotel and the team. We like to see choices. So maybe choice in terms of some guests may want high touch services, some may want less so. So they'd be more attracted to things like mobile check-in, mobile key, refusing housekeeping. And the last point I would say is also what we're seeing in the properties, that are doing well and have been able to yield their rates up. There's certainly an expectation that goes with that, and you should be prepared for it. So if your guests are paying, a very high rate kind of in general, and, certainly higher than maybe the hotel has achieved in the recent past or past years, there's certainly going to be an expectation there for a certain level of service, from the hotel team, that the F&B amenities will be open and operating, with the right kind of hours or the appropriate hours. So that's kind of how I'm seeing things right now.
That's great. So what I'm hearing is communication, multiple modes of communication, and lots of options. Chanika, are you experiencing the same things? Is that what you're seeing that guests want?
Yes, Lisa, thank you for having me as well. So as Jen was explaining, the business has changed so much in hospitality world, right? So we were used to having our group guests and the business travel guests during the week, and the weekend comes, the families come along, and a team was so used to that. Then all of a sudden we go into like a full family mode. When we had to clean a room which only occupied by one guest, now it's occupied by 5 guests. So it's the change of the post-pandemic. So we have more families, more leisure guests traveling. So we are adjusting to that. So the needs are different, as Jen was explaining. I'll take a couple of initiatives we have done during the pandemic. We have a program called Opt Out to Help Out, which we partner with Feeding America. We call it Say Goodnight to Hunger. So if they are staying for more than 2 nights, they can opt out of housekeeping, and we'll donate a meal for each room night to a family in need. So trying to really engage with the local community and trying to give back, and same time take some pressure off from the operation of cleaning stayover rooms, and really looking at how can we enhance the guest experience, how can we give the best Wi-Fi experience, internet speeds like similar like they're streaming at from home. So I have two kids. When I travel, Wi-Fi and internet is kind of a must, right? Some people, like if they ask, they say Wi-Fi is comes before food. So yeah, get the best Wi-Fi service available for the guests, and more accessible technology like in-room entertainment had become a key factor. We are trying to have all our streaming services in TV channels, so you can look into your own Netflix account or the Prime account, so you can watch as you're watching at home. So that's kind of the key. How can we keep that streamless experience as we move along with the post-pandemic travel world?
I really like that. And, you know, I think that definitely speaks to exceeding guest expectations by leveraging technology in the room and recognizing the shift in the customers that we're seeing in the luxury segment. And certainly scratching that CSR itch as well along the way. I think we're seeing a huge growth in that as well. Tiffany, what are you experiencing in your hotels?
You know, I think that a lot of obviously what Shanika and Jen said is true here as well. But, you know, with the change in travel purpose, right, we have a lot of leisure guests, a lot of families, a lot of couples coming for, you know, staycations or getaways, and really tailoring the hotel experience to that more so than our corporate guests. You know, we've found that, you know, people really, they don't want to make decisions anymore. They're here to just, you know, unwind and have a good time and enjoy kind of the local culture. So finding ways to really bring that into the hotel experience has been really important for us as we kind of come out of this. You know, we found some fun ways to partner with some of the businesses just here in our neighborhood or in the community, in the city. And, you know, we do takeovers of, you know, some of our cafes or our food and beverage outlets when they're closed, and bring in some of the partners that, you know, are a little bit further out drive-wise that maybe our guests wouldn't experience otherwise. So some of the local wineries, local distilleries, it's been a really fun way for us to partner with our local small businesses. You know, bringing things into the room, right? Like Shanika mentioned, we do little s'mores kits that we've included in our destination amenity fee that, you know, is fun for not just kids, but for adults. One of the hotels is kind of baseball themed. So we pulled that in from the Sandlot movie. You know, just finding fun ways to really play with your hotel brand and really give people a taste of the city or of the community that you're so involved in. We've really seen a lot of success with that. We did some movie nights, just some really fun things, I think, for that leisure travel.
I love that. I love the idea of bringing the local scene to them and making it such that no decisions have to be made, and you're just bringing the culture of your city to them. So we've talked a little bit about guest expectations, but what are some of the challenges hoteliers are facing as they transition into growth mode? And Tiffany, maybe you can start this time.
Yeah, I think with that, the number one thing absolutely is the staffing issue. You know, you hear about it and you read about it everywhere, but it is honestly the most real and the heaviest challenge that we face today. Just getting through the day, honestly, we come in and we're not exactly sure what the day is going to look like anymore. You know, we've tried really creative ways to enhance our benefits package, not just from, you know, a health like medical perspective, but experiential. And again, those partnerships in our community have been really helpful for that, to make it more of a compelling and creative way to recruit talent. We're also, you know, constantly working on wages and finding ways to, you know, ensure that we're not just looking at hospitality, but looking at industries outside of that, to make sure that, you know, we're able to capture whatever talent is out there. And that's been very helpful for us. But, you know, cross training has been key in utilizing the resources that we do have, and, you know, really trying to think forward on, you know, how to best get ahead of it with the little demand that's out there for new positions.
Yes, we've definitely seen a lot of that in the news. Jennifer, are you experiencing the same things? Do you have other challenges?
Yeah, I wish our hotels weren't experiencing staffing issues, but it's rampant, everywhere, kind of no matter where you are, in the domestic US and what kind of property you have there. We have open positions everywhere. It can be much more dire in some places than others. I would say, my comment on that would be, even though you may think we're kind of competing against each other on that, it is great to see the industry kind of band together on this issue, and hopefully they'll continue to. I know AHLA, our industry association, is trying to do everything they can, to be a resource, and even doing some job fairs, in certain cities to bring all hotels together and, in one spot rather than trying to do competing, job fairs against one another. So that was nice to see. But the other thing that I would mention on this topic would be, and again, it's an easy one because everybody's heard it, but, just the supply chain issues. So whether you're, a normal operating hotel, just trying to get your operating supplies, your toilet paper and your tissues and your sheets and your towels and your washcloths, like you name it, your pens, supply chain is affecting, almost everyone in kind of every category. So you have to, work really closely with your vendors and maybe even switch vendors if you need to get what you need when you need it. And that also has definitely creeped into and affected capital improvements or capital projects at hotels. So, we have a hotel that, did all the planning and all the ordering, actually pre-pandemic. And you fast forward to, during the pandemic, we actually did kind of hit the button and say, okay, let's just order everything and get everything in place, so we're ready to open when things get a little bit better. And we still have, you name it, any kind of furniture, fixtures, and equipment, FF&E sitting out on a cargo ship, in a port, and some things haven't even left, the country where they were manufactured. So it's not everything, but it's still some bits and pieces, even though, typically from the time you kind of ordered and got your FF&E delivered, it could be 18 or 20 weeks, maybe, was typical pre-pandemic. And it's like double and triple, if not more, at this point to get your, what you need in. So on one hand, there are hotels that kind of planned ahead and, push the button, like I said, and, things were ordered and somewhat manufactured and still coming in. But if you're behind, which is totally understandable because of the pandemic from a deferred maintenance or CapEx perspective, because you had to put things on hold because things were extremely dire, to get kind of back on track, and catch up to your deferred maintenance and the capital expenditures you probably should have made 2 or 3 years ago. That's also going to be a challenge. And what, as things kind of come back into growth mode, hoteliers are going to have to, figure out.
Those are really key points, and I'm certain that unfortunately we are experiencing them across the entire industry. Chanika, are you also having these challenges, additional challenges? What are you experiencing in your hotel?
Yeah, I wish we could say otherwise, right? I mean, it's the same challenges we're facing, the supply chain issues or the labor shortages. And we opened 2 new hotels during the pandemic. So we opened Omni Oklahoma City and Omni Boston Seaport, which is 1,000+ hotels. So 1,000 room plus hotels. So you could imagine amount of the undertaking we have taken. It's one of the toughest things to do from the labor standpoint, from the supply chain standpoint. Even finding task force, like normally it's easy to. We have over 50 hotels throughout the US, Canada, and Mexico, but it was tough because people cannot leave from one place to and go to another, right? And our Canadian friends, they cannot come south. The all kind of challenges, but very similar. And as Jen mentioned, the planning is the key. Like if you're planning a summer promotion, if you were planning in March in previous years, now we had to plan in like January. So get that ready, order your pool towels, order everything by February, and you cross your fingers, it will come before Memorial Day weekend, right? So, and we're not used to that because we're so fortunate in this part of the world. We order something and it shows up within a 2 or 1 or 2 weeks. So that's not the normal. Like simple thing like golf balls. Golf, if you look at the golf ball pricing has pretty much doubled. And if you want to get anything specially done, like the low-code golf ball could take about 4 to 6 weeks to come. So that's kind of the challenge we're facing. So then we are looking at like how can we make the challenge an opportunity, right? So how can we work with the technology partners to make those processes better? How can we create new technologies? So for HR, it's easy to do their job. For the sales, it's easy to do their jobs, and how we can interconnect all our systems so there's minimum input manually. So we're working with different technology partners and see how we can advance in the technology to create like a pretty much seamless experience for the our associates.
That's really powerful to move from the challenges right to the opportunities. And I definitely think innovative technologies are a great way to do that. Jennifer, how are innovative technologies driving ancillary revenue in your organization?
Yeah, I would say, again, I tend to also mention kind of the basics. So just to go back to communication again, and, honestly, there are so many kind of systems and tools and apps, that are out there that it's hard to, maybe do your R&D on all of those and figure out what the right one is to use. But, in all cases, kind of the bare minimum now for hotels in terms of communication, so that hotels know what to expect, but also you want your guests to know exactly, everything that you have to offer during their stay, so they don't miss out on anything. And again, you're getting that, extra revenue, whether it's, spa or food and beverage or golf or whatever it may be. So I think taking advantage of making sure, your systems can send out, pre-stay emails that are very, clear what to expect, how to do things while you're on site. When they stay on site, texting is kind of a big thing. Not all guests are going to want it and want to opt into it, but texting is a pretty good way to communicate directly with your guests and make sure that you're providing what they need, and then they can get a hold of you if they need something. I've also seen TV systems. You can order room service through the TV. You can, see your folio through the TV, like everything right there, just like to capture what's going on and make sure, again, you're communicating to your guests what you have to offer. And the last thing I would mention is I know they're a sponsor. It is really great, actually, that they're a sponsor, because we love to talk about Resort Pass. So Curator does have a partnership with them. And even though they're called Resort Pass, we do have them in many hotels, not just resorts, but it's another way to capture ancillary revenue. So if you have this amazing huge pool, or maybe you have multiple pools, or, you can have guests come in, local guests come and book something in your, your ropes course on a resort, or, axe throwing or something, like just to communicate directly with the local community and bring them in, which feels good, but also creates other revenue streams for the property, not only trying to, get as much as you can out of your on-site guests.
That's great. And to me, the standout here is integration, right? That seamless transition. It allows for more fluid communication. It allows for the resort to know how many people to staff, given that there are staffing issues, and where they need them in the different outlets in the hotel. Tiffany, are you using any innovative technologies to drive ancillary revenue on your properties?
Yeah, so I would say, more recently, one of the most successful that we've been doing is one of the texting platforms. Our guests have been extremely responsive to that. And when we're fortunate enough to get their phone numbers during the booking process, it's great for pre-arrival as well. And with all the leisure travel that we're seeing, even from corporate coming back, it's been great to be in touch with them prior to their arrival to understand any, birthdays they're celebrating, or any particular room types or amenities that they're looking for. It's been, honestly, from that, check-in process, really exciting for us to kind of take the service to the next level. We're also, testing mobile check-in platforms in our lobbies, just kind of understanding a little bit more about how to relieve some of the pressure on the guests checking in, waiting in lines. It's been helpful to have that as sort of an additional front desk option. We also have a self-book option that we're, exploring from a mobile platform perspective. I think it's become more about the ease of purchasing and booking reservations and doing everything virtually than it was pre-pandemic. I think the easier the guest can book this room and the easier they can make this reservation, the more likely A, we are to capture that revenue, but B, to just, get them through the booking process. So, we've been exploring that option. And I think, from an ancillary perspective, it's going to be really great for us to, make sure that we're 100% converting that guest into a reservation. So that's been very exciting for us. And I think that, from an upgrade perspective, that's another piece to this is there are different platforms that, help make it seamless for your staff as well. And in terms of, getting guests an elevated experience and, kind of tailoring the stay a little bit more to their needs. The upgrade options that we have with some of our booking platforms has been great as well.
That's fantastic. And I know, Chanika, I know you kicked us off with this, but are there any other innovative technologies that you're using on your property to maybe facilitate that additional experience for your guests and to drive ancillary revenue in terms of the golf courses that you have on your properties or within property?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as both Tiffany and Jen was mentioning, like we are part of Resort Pass as well. It was a huge success. We signed our agreement last year, and we were able to really drive pretty much double the revenues from the poolside amenities compared to 2019 numbers. So, and that we're doing that with half the occupancy levels we had in 2019. So that shows that when we put something in electronic distribution, that's the way to go, right? I mean, it's a huge success story, and also it will bring more F&B revenues for the poolside outlets. So that also came as a bonus. So it's really important for us to continue to work on the technology and how we can work on the ancillary side of the technology, because we have come a long way from the room standpoint, meeting room standpoint, but from the ancillary standpoint, we were a little bit behind. So post-pandemic world, it definitely shake up this ancillary revenues. We started looking at the total revenue per occupied room versus looking at traditional RevPAR, ADR, right? Now all of a sudden we started looking at total TRevPAR or TRevPO, total revenue per occupied room or the available room. So that's to see how much revenue we are getting from those, and then creating different processes. The golf had become this story of post-pandemic or even during the pandemic. Golf is the only revenue stream able to beat numbers in 2020 in any hospitality revenue stream, from airline to car rental to hotels. And it continued to grow. Like most of our the golf courses are selling out on the membership. And then we're looking at how can we increase the technology, invest in the technology for golf, and creating, as Tiffany was explaining earlier, creating that easy experience for the guests. When they book their room, they should be able to book the golf, spa, the ancillary in the same booking path. So we have created My Upgrade program, which is our Omni's version of upselling the guests. Pretty much we're following a very similar to the airline field, where guests get a standby upgrade option when they opt into it. And we also created dynamic packages so the guests can add on early check-in or late check-out, depending on their needs, especially when you're traveling with your family. If you want to experience the pool for a couple of more hours more, you can pay a little bit and stay longer. So we're trying to make a lot of things accessible, and it's also helping from the labor standpoint, what we're talking about, right? So we're trying to have everything available for the guests beforehand, so they don't have to go to the front desk and ask, or call the front desk and ask, okay, can I get early check-in? Can I get late checkout? Can I opt out from the housekeeping service and all that? We're trying to create that electronic experience for the guests. And again, the QR codes, right? Like we had the QR code technology. We had not used the QR code technology to the level we're using it today, right? And then it comes with so many other benefits like dynamic pricing for restaurants and less print material. You know how long it takes to get paper right now. So it helps keeping everything online.
That's fantastic. And it sounds like all of these integrated processes and all of these technologies are facilitating new and creative ways to deliver a seamless experience. I know you talked, Tiffany, about the s'mores packaging. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the new and creative ways that your hotels are delivering these seamless experiences to guests.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, not just with leisure guests, but even with our corporate travelers, when people arrive on property now, they don't want to make any decisions. They don't want to lift a finger. They just want everything just kind of rolled out, which is completely understandable. And I think that, we've tried very hard to think of all of the steps to packages now. We have an adventure package, for example, at one of the properties where the city of Denver is where we're located. And when we're so close to the mountains and many people come to this city with the intention of taking a day trip up to the mountains and then coming back downtown for dinner. So they don't know how to do that on their own if they've never been here before. So explaining, the rental car and directions and, the different options that they can book in the mountains. Instead, we've packaged the entire thing for an adventure package where we book the car, we have a packed lunch and some bottles of wine, and we have already made the reservation for them at a zip lining or a whitewater rafting location. And we just really tailor that experience for them, and they can travel up to the mountains and come right back, and it's all been done. The same thing at, one of the other properties we have, it's located in a multi-use development. So tons of restaurants and retail downstairs. And we've, created a progressive dinner where they get to experience not just one restaurant that they've had to do the research for. We've kind of vetted everything, and we know the best of the best. So we have booked, a progressive dinner for couples or for families that, stay at the hotel, and then all these reservations are made for them, and they just have to show up. So really trying to think ahead about that guest experience and what they want while they're here. And then, finding fun ways to package that and deliver it to them seamlessly.
That sounds incredible. Chanika, what are you doing on your properties to create new and seamless experiences on top of the technology that you're affording and leveraging?
Yeah, definitely. We can talk a little bit more about golf again, right? I mean, we were looking at how the golf has changed and how the customer of golf has changed, and then really creating that experience. Technology is one thing, and also understanding what they're looking for. So thinking outside the box, we're creating 9-hole, the short courses for golf. They're getting more popular. So we see more millennials and Gen Zs playing golf, and it had become a social media sensation on the post-pandemic world. So we open up a beautiful short course at the Omni Amelia Island called Little Sandy. So we're seeing good traffic going there. And they not like the baby boomers, like they love playing golf for 4 or 5 hours. But if you in social media, or TikTokers would love to get to the coast, take their social media images, and they get out within 2 to 3 hours, right? So so creating, really understanding the customer and creating the process behind it, as Tiffany explained earlier, is perfect, right? How can we create this seamless experience? How can we get that booking for the dinner created so easily for the guests? And how can we get that spa appointment created for the guests so easily, right? So we're looking at, we're actually creating an online platform of our spas, which we haven't had in the past. And we're finding ways so we can bring the spas online, and which is, we know some specialized services have to book through a call center, but 70% of the time, it's a simple massage they're booking, right? So we can bring this, and it also gives the better guest experience because they can pick the time, they can pick when they like to come, right? And they see what's available versus someone's trying to explain that over the phone. So thinking outside, thinking ahead, and I would say hoteliers have to invest in the technology. I'm a huge technology person. I love to work with the different apps and create this seamless experience. And the world's moving fast. We always feel we are a little behind sometimes when we come in the hotels. So think ahead, think more like the tech companies and move along with them.
So it sounds to me like early adoption is key in your mind for creating those seamless experiences for guests.
Definitely.
Jennifer, how do you and your brands create new and seamless experiences for your guests?
Yeah, what I would say is Tiffany and Jonica are right on, and Tiffany's hotels are actually in Curator, which is kind of exciting. And Curator is full of independent hotels, and we really kind of leverage the uniqueness of those hotels. So I know everyone's given examples. I'll just add a couple of ours. So, we have a resort in South Florida, and they have a whole list of these unique experiences you can only get at this property on property. What Tiffany was speaking to earlier, it's, put this menu in front of your guests, show them that they can have this amazing experience with you, whether it's on property or organizing something for them to go off property, but it's through you. So it's curated by you. It feels like it's part of the hotel experience. We have things like this amazing, private dinner on the beach. If we look at one of our resorts up in Washington State, they have added unique treehouse accommodations. They've added a whole adventure park with zip lines and axe throwing, and an executive 9-hole golf course, and also disc golf, and the the thing more is coming, because we just have luckily we can build more, and keep adding to the amenities up there. Again, it goes back to resorts having the space to do that. And just on the fundamental side of things, our tech stack, if you want to say, all the different systems that a hotel needs, it has been very fragmented in the past. You go to one vendor for your property management system and a different vendor for your revenue management system, and you're always, like you said earlier, Lisa, to call that back, it's about integration to make sure you pick the systems that can all work together, talk to each other, because the guest wants to feel like, to use your word in the question, seamless. Like, they don't want pain points along the way, whether it's, the minute they walk in the door, or they're in their room, or they're in the restaurant. They want to feel like it's all run by the hotel. Whether or not it truly is doesn't matter to them, and shouldn't matter to them. It should feel like it is. And part of that is, a call back to what Tiffany said earlier too about cross training. The more we can cross train our team members, if they're open to it, then they can understand, it's not just about, they may just see a guest when they open the door for them, but what's the front desk experience really like for them, so they can kind of guide the guest through the experience, and they can, again, it goes back to service and the guests feeling like this is a really good experience for them. And then the call back to the QR codes too, just goes back to kind of communication. If there's QR codes, they can see exactly what's going on. They can look at the menu at their leisure. There's, new apps, one that we're kind of testing now, where even though you're in a restaurant experience and you have a server that can get you what you need, you can actually use this app and just like figure it out all yourself, and split the check however you want to. And then you can, utilize the services of the server if you really want them, but you can sit in a restaurant and kind of have that experience, but I guess timed kind of the way you want to on your little phone, if that's your preference. But if not, your server's there to do it kind of the traditional way. So I think a lot of travelers now, the expectations are high. They want to, like I kind of said in the beginning, they want to have great experiences. They want to have memories, and all this feeds into it. Like, whatever you can deliver in terms of activities and unique experiences at your property, make sure you have, the technology platforms and the team members to deliver it. And you kind of can't go wrong. You'll be able to deliver really great guest experiences, and hopefully they keep coming back.
Add a little bit more to that. In the mobile experience is the key, as Jennifer was mentioning. It's we see more and more bookings coming from mobile, and it's overtaking desktop, right? And then all the communication, and Tiffany was talking about texting earlier. So everything is kind of QR codes, everything is pointing to mobile phone. More of the millennials and Gen Zs are they attached to their phones. So it's the best way to communicate versus an email, because they actually don't read emails. If I speak to my nephew, he was like, what is email? Yeah, okay. So you had to tell him we sent an email. So you had to text him and tell him you sent an email. So he'll go and check the email, right? So that's the world we're heading to. So it's pretty much on all in instant messaging, text messaging, and the mobile experience.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I'm not sure if any of you would like to leave any final remarks on words of encouragement, or just as we move from recovery to growth, anything else you'd like to impart on our viewers today?
I would say get out there and travel, have experiences, pick the unique kind of memorable properties, that we have here, in the US, and have fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much to explore in US. I think we really figured out that during the pandemic or the post-pandemic, because we were so ready to pack our bags and go to Europe or Asia, and we have not actually explored our own country, right? So it's really getting out there and explore the pretty much even North American continent. There's so much you can do between Canada, US, and Mexico. You can travel the world in this continent, right? So it's important, as Jennifer was mentioning, get out, travel, it's fun, and we're looking forward to it.
Tiffany, did you want to leave any last words?
Yeah, I mean, I think from my standpoint, I'm boots on the ground every day. So, I think thinking about the people you work with just as much as we think about our guests is so important in this industry. And I think, pre-pandemic, it was probably a little bit further back in our minds than we'd like to admit. And I think that, now that we're kind of coming back out of it, taking care of our teams and really thinking of the best ways to do that, being creative about that.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing these words of wisdom with us. To close, we'd like to thank you all for joining the International Luxury Hotel Association's webinar series. If you found the webinar to be of value, please do share the recording. Recordings of past webinars can be found on the ILHA's website, theilha.com, under their webinar series.